Sup, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 11 of my reviewing the live Phish series, volume 11. This is a release series. They started back in like the 2000s. Live shows just released, right? I'm going to review this one, number 11, then I'll show where I think, personally, number 11 falls among the other 10 I've already done. So Live Phish Volume 11 is a complete show from November 17th, 1977. And in sort of the Phish world of Phish heads, Phish heads, I took them to a movie, dinner and a movie. This is up there in the GOAT discussion with many people. I'm not saying whether or not I'm that person yet, but it's a GOAT discussion, maybe a top 10 of all time type discussion. Like this is one of those shows that people put on a pedestal and rave about. It is in the cow funk era, so we get these sort of really long, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I like long jams, but just these kind of just almost groove, vibe oriented, just going into this like steady, just like there's a lot of little variations, but the variations are like this, and you just kind of ride in this funky groove for a while. Very ambient, sort of groove-based jams that kind of sometimes don't have like volcanic peaks like a volcano solo, as Zappa described it, where things are reaching this head and exploding. They just kind of maybe go different places and end up in another song. Sometimes you don't get a lot of really type 2 out there crazy stuff because you're just staying in this lane for like 10, 15 minutes at a time. And so that's kind of the vibe of this show. And the first set, I would say, yeah, you can argue the first set is GOAT. I think the second set is a little bit weaker. Overall, it is a fantastic show. It is a fantastic show. I'm not in any way complaining about this show. I do have a couple nitpicks I'm going to pick, but this is a great show. However, I probably wouldn't put it in my top 10 of all-time favorite Phish shows. And over the course of me talking about it, I will tell you why. So anyways, as I said, the first set, which is the entirety of disc 1, this is a 3-disc set we have a bonus material that comes into discussion when ranking this because the bonus material is fantastic. More 97 stuff that is just hits it out of the ballpark type stuff. But the first set, which fits on the entirety of disc 1, has two of the greatest sort of cow funk era moments that Phish ever did. It opens up with the tweezer, and the tweezer kind of feels a little laid back and slow almost from the start, maybe because I know it's going to end up in like a really long cow funk jam that I'm just like imposing that thought on me, but it does. There's a little bit of a I don't even want to say sluggishness, but there's a little bit of it's definitely not this high-paced aggressive tweezer. And the jam is essentially just this like groove. They're just riding this really careful groove that maybe just kind of like slowly intensifies until things get a little bit kind of weird and crazy, but not really out there. Like we never go really anywhere different. We just maybe intensify, like maybe just a little more burst of intensity before like all that just kind of comes crumbling down, and then we get a little maybe it's just the one with the start. We get a little start-stop jam at the end of this. One of those, where the band's playing, they stop, and then they come back in. We get a little bit of that playfulness towards the end of the jam. Mike immediately is just playing that deep space funk bass in the beginning. So the tone from the beginning is just set. And this is a comment I'm going to call back to as I go on. But it is a perfect opener. Like an 18-minute tweezer that doesn't really have any sort of volcanic peak, that just lets the boys play and jam, and it's really like they're cooking a gumbo or a brisket, and the whole process is like you just had the right flavor at the right time, and you're not rushing it, and you're just really careful with it, and you know it's going to be a long, patient process. The tweezer jam and the ghost jam that's going to come later are just the perfect examples of that. It really is just a band letting things simmer until it's time to reach a low boil, until the food is just done. And the tweezer is just a perfect kickoff for that. Then we go into a Reba, which is kind of continuing the same vibe, a little sloppy in some of the written parts, but the vibe of the solo is pretty chill and laid back, and I actually really enjoy it. I think it works really well. It almost seems maybe a little more chiller and vibe, a little more chiller, Denver in November, a little more chiller than the tweezer. but it kind of works. The only problem with it, when you think things are going to build up to sort of a intense release that we're kind of needing at this point, that it just kind of feels like after that tweezer, we want a little more intensity. Right when Trey feels like he's going that direction, John's with the drum fill, and we go back into like, we end the song. No whistling, we don't go back into the song. Then we get an absolutely awesome train song. Awesome selection. Don't know if that was predetermined or Mike was just like, this is exactly what we need at this point. Train song works perfectly. Then we drop into Ghost. And Ghost, 21 minutes, 24 seconds, is just a beast. Like, this might be the cow funk template. Like, this might just be the thing. Ghost is already cow funk perfect. This whole song is just like dipped in the funk. It's just like, if you don't like this Ghost, you're not going to like, I can't imagine you would like any cow funk that this band plays. So skip all of 97 for the most part. We kind of set up about 6 minutes in. Paige is coming in with some really nice spacey keyboard waves, kind of giving it like a nice kind of proggy funk vibe. The tone that he's using has that sort of Richard Wright slightly metallic edge with even a little Alan Parsons type keyboard sounds. It's a really good sound, and it brings a 70s prog funk vibe to it that works perfectly. Still pretty chill. And it stays chill until about the 14 or 15 minute mark. And at that point, going back to the food metaphor, it really is like Trey's just like, well, guess what? I'm tired of waiting. I'm ready to eat. And like around the 14-minute mark, you can see Trey's like gathering like, a plate and some utensils, a tray to put his brisket on, maybe grabbing some sweet tea. And then right around the 15-minute mark, 15 and a half, he just starts eating. But he's not devouring the feast. He's not like, oh, we're going crazy. But he's enjoying it, and the flavors are intense, and the song gets a little more intense. And so Trey finally, we're way deep into this set at this point, and we're even 16 minutes into a Ghost. We get somewhat of this cathartic let's eat release that is pretty awesome. And then it just kind of after that, the song just kind of fades away, and it just kind of fades out. And then Trey's like, hey, we're going to take a little break, but we got one more song. Dun, 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 and they do Fire. And that ends the set. My only complaint, I guess I have two. The Reba kind of cut short. So maybe it would have been a better show if that Reba gets fulfilled. But I don't need the whistling. I just want Trey to be able to reach that peak in his solo, which I don't think he was able to reach. And I don't like the Fire. I like the Fire. It's a good performance of Fire. But I think I've mentioned it before. I once heard Dennis DeYoung's cover of Fire on his Desert Moon, his first solo album. That's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life. And it kind of turned me against Fire, even the Hendrix version. I'm like, okay, it's Hendrix, but any other cover of Fire, I'm just like, you need to retire the song. Dennis DeYoung has ruined it for everybody. But also, in a couple shows earlier, I think they played Isabella, which I would have much rather heard. If they had closed with A Bold as Love, I would have rather heard that if we're going to stick with the Hendrix vibe. So it, for me, fails to be a perfect set because the Reba is unfinished and Fire kind of disappoints me. I actually would have rather have them just fade out Ghost and end Ghost. One more theory. I've listened to this first set a lot, and I have a theory that there's a narrative here. I have a movie in my head when I listen to this. The tweezer is the traveling from Denver. It's winter, it's cold, you got to drive kind of slow, but you're in a warm car, so you're feeling good. Driving down, if you leave Denver and you head east, it's eastern Kansas and eastern Colorado and Kansas. It's straight and it's flat for hours, if not a day and a half. Every once in a while, there's a little bend. Once you get out of 100 miles past Colorado, the freeway kind of bends for a while. Then you're done for hundreds of miles. And I feel like Tweezer is that drive. And you're driving to maybe Kansas City, the other side of Kansas, to visit someone who's going to make a potion for you because you're going to go to a seance to try to bring back a dead relative or something. So you go to this lady's house. It's Reba. She's making you up your cocktails, right? You're watching her do it. She finally gives it to you. And then, because you've been warned not to take your car, you take a train out to the middle of, I don't know, northeastern Kansas to this old haunted house where you're going to administer this elixir in this house and you're going to be able to visit this ghost. So you do that. You visit the ghost, you have conversations with the ghost. It's a peaceful ghost. It's kind of funky. At one point, the story gets kind of intense. But then, as the night goes on and on and on, and you realize the sun is coming up, like you can start to see the colors of the sun on the horizon, the song starts to fade out because the ghost has to like disappear before the sun comes up. There's like vampire reasons for this. It might just burn alive, be sent to like purgatory or something. But then the ghost disappears, and what do we got? Fire. Because what is the sun? It's fire. Perfect, absolute perfect story. Someone should make a movie of that. All right. Set 2 is really good. Down with Disease is like Trey bringing us what we want so far in this show. And it's a long, really long, drawn out Trey, just kind of charging full speed ahead type jam. And there is this definite sort of tension. When is it? It's at times there's like, I even wrote, there's like even an Allman Brothers type vibe at times where the things get like really intense. But it seems like as the solo goes on and we start to maybe slow down, there's this tension where like, it feels like the band other than Trey wants to like devolve in like a type 2 craziness. And Trey is just up here like, no, we're going to just solo straight ahead. And then he starts like drawing out these notes like, no, I got to pull you back to the surface. And so we never really devolve into like these weird, crazy out there like areas. We kind of stay focused in this sort of Down with Disease, straight ahead drive. Finally kind of fades out at some point. When is this? We're reaching, how long is this thing? This thing is like 16 minutes long, right? This Down with Disease is 16 minutes long. Around the 12-minute mark, right? We start to get a slightly different vibe, maybe a little more chilled out, but then we start to ramp up and it feels like we're going to go into Johnny Be Good. And there's some really good sort of Chuck Berry energy, but then all of a sudden we go back down and next thing you know, it's Olivia's Pool, Oblivious Fool. Olivia's Oblivious Fool Pool. It's one of those things, which I like, not bad. It's like 2.5 minutes long. After that, we get a Johnny Be Good. The Johnny Be Good finally comes. The Dead kind of wore me out on Johnny Be Good, you know, back in the day. So I'm not always the biggest fan of Johnny Be Good as a song, but it's a good, high energy. And then after that, they just go into this 12-minute jam that things go way down. Like we bring things like way down to a low simmer. We get some good, really funky keyboard energy. The whole thing feels kind of sneaky, like we're not supposed to be jamming after Johnny Be Good. There's a definite laid back vibe. It's kind of funky. It just, there's something just very like down, like we shouldn't be doing this because it's Johnny Be Good, but we got to play some more. We got to solo. And this is both something I really like about 97 and to some degree 98, and something I don't like. It's that fact that any song can all of a sudden just turn into a cowfunk jam. And like, sometimes that's good because it's one I want to hear. But other times it seems like, oh, we're just going to do it because we can. And that's this comment I'm going to refer back to later on in this set. So it's a really good jam though. And I really like the energy. This is a case where it works. And I'm glad they sort of delve into that. That eventually slides into a Jesus Just Left Chicago. And here's where kind of my first, I don't want to say complaint comes in, but the previous show also had a Jesus Just Left Chicago, 6/22/94. And that is a really weird set. Like we got a Mike's, Simple, Iculus, Hydrogen. We got some Midnight Rider in there. We're going in and out of these songs. It's really snaky and weavy. It's a fantastic set. And even though Jesus Just Left Chicago is for the most part like this straight ahead blues song, all that energy that is weird kind of seemed like it felt channeled into Jesus. So when there's opening notes, the dun, 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 dun hit, it's just like you need it. Like this is where we're going. And then Page sings his butt off, and there's a great solo. And that previous Jesus from Volume 10, I think is just one of the best Jesuses I've ever heard. And I was happy to be at that show, loved it in the moment, even listening to it now. I'm like, this is a good Jesus. It feels like they kind of limp into this one. They're just like, let's do a Jesus. Again, it's Jesus, so it's good. The solo is fantastic. It is a really slow, patient, absolutely cathartic build-up. By the time Trey's finished just like destroying the landscape in it, everything's forgiven and I'm all in. But when I'm listening to it, I'm like, this beginning, it's not corralling all the energy from the show and like propelling it forward. After that, we go into When the Circus Comes to Town. Perfect vibe. Love the song. I think it's the vibe we need. Complements Jesus well. I think it's a good choice. Disc 2 ends at this point. Everything on disc set 2 has been on disc 2 so far. Disc 3, we get the final song in the main set, and then we get Character Zero as the encore. And the final song is You Enjoy Myself. And this is where I think this show ultimately prevents me from putting it in like a top 10. I've never been a huge You Enjoy Myself fan. I think YEM, You Enjoy Myself, works better like early in the second set. I don't like it as a set closer. I don't like the vocal jam at the end. And so knowing that that's coming, never fan of the jumping on the trampolines. I think there's some absolutely beautiful musical parts throughout this song, but as a live song, it's not bringing me the jammed out goods that I need. And in this version, there is a super, super long, pretty chill, pretty mellow cowfunk jam. Like, it's just, you get cowfunk. Like, it's almost just like YEM as cowfunk. It's like Oprah. You get cowfunk, and you get cowfunk, and you get cowfunk. Everybody gets cowfunk. And I just feel like I needed at the end of this show with some, the first set is amazing. You lived in the cowfunk shed the entire set, except for Fire. Perfect. We needed something like Fire to just like volcanically cleanse our souls after the majority of the set. And so I feel like the YEM does not do it. Now, the segue into the vocal jam at the end is really cool because it's not this hard stop into wash your feet and drama differenza. Wash you, you know, it's like we all of a sudden are in the vocal jam and that takes over. Fantastic. Love that ending. Should have done that more often. Brilliant. But as a set closer, it's not what I needed. I needed a David Bowie, you know. I needed an Antelope. I needed something that was just like, I needed a Mike's Hydrogen Groove, like something to just cleanse my soul with just like straight ahead jamming. That's what I needed after this show. So, and then Character Zero is the encore, which doesn't really do anything for me. And then we get bonus tracks on here from November 19th, 2 days later. We get a 28-minute Wolfman's Brother into an 11-minute Makasupa Policeman. They both are cowfunk heavy. The Makasupa has this really long, like 4-minute cowfunk jam in it that is fantastic. That just gets really low and really simmering and really like you've been Makasupiing way too much and you can barely like even think, let alone like get off the couch. Like this is I'm on the couch. Like as what is I think Trey saying this one? Sick kind is like the phrase he drops. Woke up this morning, sick kind. Just fantastic. Something like that. I'm probably misquoting. But the Wolfman's is just like, yeah, it's just like beautiful, beautiful cowfunk energy from the get-go. And we go through some cowfunk, we go through some weirdness, we go through some Page-led jamming. Trey comes back in with some more like sort of aggressive jamming. We get some, I call it Isabella energy. It feels like this really driving forward Isabella type solo that I needed to end the first set. It just has this like momentum that's pushing us forward. That's after, and then Paige kind of takes over, then Trey comes back over, then we get this sort of like woozy sort of like, we're like 20 minutes in at this point maybe, we get this sort of woozy chugging that almost feels like they're going to go into walk away, just kind of this, but like we're still going forward, but it just kind of feels a little bit like sloppier and woozier. And then we get this almost like commercial sounding weird Doobie Brothers groove at one point that kind of reminds me of some, maybe like if Michael McDonald was leading like a Doobie Brothers jam with that awesome organ sound. So we get all these flavors. Cowfunk seems to be like the bed of lettuce underneath all of it. Like we always seem to be falling back to just grooving out this like awesome, just let's fall back to the groove. But this one goes to so many interesting places. Trey attacks pretty hard. Paige has some good stuff going on. Mike and John always are fantastic. And then it just goes into a fantastic Makasupa. And the Makasupa has just this deep, 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 deep space jam. Yeah. Question is, where would I rank this among the others? I would put it right there. It's my number 3. I think if the first set, I think if Fire was maybe not the encore in that first set, maybe if the Reba was able to like reach some sort of peak, maybe if the YEM was replaced by Bowie or Antelope, this could jump maybe to 2. I'm not sure it could beat that 1. Those 2000 shows, man, those long, deep exploratory jams, that's more my flavor. I appreciate the cow funk. I like the cow funk, but sometimes I need something else. And I don't think this show provided me sort of that contrast to the cow funk that I needed. Like YEM clearly disappointed. Fire was not the energy release I needed. Character Zero as an encore didn't do it for me. So like I kind of feel like as much as I love the show, and I love this show, I do feel like maybe there's some unresolved issues every time I'm done listening to it. And I kind of need to like go to something weirder, like and stranger and more out there. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I mean, it's all subjective, right? But it would not be in my top 10 of all time Phish shows. But I know some people would put it there. Anyways, but yeah, that's all I got, man. Thanks for watching. I went on a long time. This is a really good show. Like, if you are new to Phish, I'm not sure this is a good place to start because this cow funk era was really reserved to like that 97, a little bit of 98-ness. And I just feel like you might get the wrong sense of what this band can do. But at the same time, if you do like this, I just think it opens up so many other doors for you, you know. But this is such a special era. It's such a unique era with the band. It is a fantastic show. But yeah, that's it. That's what I got. It's my 3. That's all. I'm rambling at this point. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, share. Go listen to this. Just drop in that first tweezer. It's 18 minutes long. You can, and just, if you enjoy that, you're going to love the rest of the show, right? So anyways, that's all I got. Thanks, peace, whatever. Take care, peace. Talk to you later.